Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to look at the second part of this second unit. Last week we looked at the political geography of the United States, where we looked at the state boundaries and the country boundary. Today we're going to start looking at our major physical features of our country. So we're going to look at United States' landforms. And there's going to be 4 different categories that we look at for this unit. We're going to look at major rivers of the United States, major mountains, major lakes, and then there's a category of other features that don't qualify as any of the first 3. So, what do I mean by physical features? These are our landforms. We're talking about mountains. We're talking about deserts. We're talking about bodies of water and rivers. So if we look at a physical feature map of the United States, you can see this shows some of our major physical features that we're going to go through today. Our first section is major rivers. And we're going to look at these major rivers of the United States. So there's 7 of them that we're going to look at. Starting with the biggest of the rivers in the United States, and that's the Missouri River. If you go to the United States Geological Survey's site, the Missouri River is listed as the longest river in the United States. A lot of times it's that misconception, and we think Mississippi River. I know when I was in school, it was always Mississippi River. But according to the data by the United States Geological Survey, the Missouri River is the longest river in the United States at 2,540 miles long. Now, this river that starts up here in the Midwest that flows into Missouri and Illinois area actually is a tributary of the Mississippi River. So the Missouri River flows into the Mississippi River that runs right here. So then the Mississippi River, one of the most important rivers historically in the United States. Why? Because it has an output into the Gulf of Mexico. So it has been a big shipping and transportation hub all throughout our country's history. It's the second longest river in the United States, a little bit shorter than the Missouri River, 2,340 miles, begins up here in the state of Minnesota, and as I said, it flows south into the Gulf of Mexico. And the Mississippi River has many tributaries or other rivers and streams that flow into it. Then we have the Ohio River, another tributary of the Mississippi River. And now the Ohio River begins here. And you may recognize that place because a lot of you have been there. In fact, I think for our 4th grade field trip in Everett, you go to this city. That's the city of Pittsburgh. And the city of Pittsburgh is where the Allegheny River and the Monongahela River meet. And at that point is where we have the Ohio River starting to begin. Alaska has a big river. So we have the Yukon River up in Alaska. Starts in Canada and then flows the whole way across the state of Alaska. Just under 2,000 miles long. Now, this river shows the importance that rivers can play in creating boundaries. The Rio Grande River, it's a Spanish word. Why? Because this whole area was Spanish territory. But it means big river. But even more importantly, the Rio Grande is what creates the border between Texas and the country of Mexico. So physical features are important because they do help to determine and create borders. The Columbia River plays a very big role, especially historically. It connects the Rocky Mountains west to the Pacific Ocean. Lewis and Clark ventured on the Columbia River whenever they were traversing the whole continent during their adventure in the early 1800s. And then you have the Colorado River. Colorado River is the river that's responsible for creating the Grand Canyon. It starts in the state of Colorado, has 2 large hydroelectric dams built on it. The most well-known is the Hoover Dam. The other one's the Glen Canyon Dam, where they've actually flooded parts of Canyon area. And the Colorado River plays a very important role in supplying water to the southwestern part of the United States. Henceforth, why they have these reservoirs built from the 2 dams along the Colorado River. So let's take a look quick at what it's like to go down through the Colorado River at the Grand Canyon.
Run on for a long time. him. Go, go, go. Get him out. Grab him. Got him.
All right, so that video showed us a little bit of what it's like to go down the Colorado River into Grand Canyon. Gives you an idea of what some of the Grand Canyon looks like. We'll look at it further along when we get to other physical features. But very powerful river. The Colorado River is a major water supply of our Southwest. So at this point, we're done taking the notes for this unit. So make sure that you go back to Google Classroom, check to complete your next assignment, and we'll see you next time.